Story time. Let me tell you about the time I jumped off a cliff into a river. I don't even know if it was a river, but it was a lot of water. So I went on an Airbnb trip to Oman. I was a part of their newest product launch, Airbnb Adventures, and that was an experience in of itself for another story for another day. But there was this portion, we were doing some hiking, and there was this kind of like, I guess you could call it an obstacle thing. And so there's a little bit of climbing, a lot of walking, and then you get to this place where there's a cliff and you have to jump into the river, swim through the thing for a little while. Let's just say, I don't know how long a mile is, maybe a half a mile. Let's just say that. Swim for a half a mile and then like to get to the other side. Okay, now I had some struggles getting through like climbing and all that kind of stuff. It was like a death-defying feat, I'll tell you. And so I had assistance and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to stay on the story here. I always get strong-winded. But anyway, get to this cliff and I can't swim. I do have a life jacket on, but I'm standing on the precipice of the cliff, and I remember two of the guys were already in the water, and they were like, trying to get me to jump and things like that. And then there was one standing next to me. He's like, I'll go in after you go in. And I had to confront my fear, and I had to ask myself, like, what am I really afraid of in this moment? What is keeping me from getting in the water? And I realized, like, I am afraid that I'm going to jump in here and drown. Like, that's what it is. And so then, like, they're saying different things to encourage me. And the one guy was like, you have a life vest. I have a life vest. I can't swim either, and look, I'm fine. So that kind of helped to like bring some truth to attack that fear. Like, all right, he's in there, but now let me address like, how do I get from this cliff to jump in? Because it's a far drop, and so I know I'm going to go under the water. So like, I see people hold the nose on a movie. Like, do I hold the nose? Do I hold my breath? Like, what do I do? Because that's freaking me out. Like, what if I breathe when I'm under the water? I'm just like, all of this is happening, and so I realized, all right, I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to go jump in. Like, I'm getting closer and closer. Literally was on that cliff for like 30 to 40 minutes. Then it gets to the point where the guy is like, okay, Patrice, like the rest of the group is already gone. They're down there drinking tea, like they're done. And he's like, you kind of need to either go now or you have to turn around and go back because the sun's getting ready to set. So that was the first thing that like sparked something. Then the other guy was like, just think, like you can go home and you can tell your family like you did this or whatever. So those two things really like pushed me into action. One, I did not want to go back to the beginning because there were some other challenges and stuff that I had to bow out of. And I was like, I'm not going home with this challenge unchampioned, with this road unaccomplished, whatever. And I'm not going to wear the banner of the person who needs special assistance and can't do it. That's not going to be me. And then I was like, forget about my family. Like, what will I think of myself? Like, how can I make myself proud for jumping in the water? And so I don't even remember what happened. I don't think I even counted to 3. I just made a decision, boom, and just jumped in. And there was a period of time, like, as soon as I jumped in the water, I went down, and I remember telling myself, don't freak out, don't freak out, don't freak out. And like, so, when you're jumping from a high distance, like you're going to go down something. I just remember being underwater, like, okay, I know I'm going to go back to the surface eventually. Shh, relax. Sometimes you got to talk to yourself like that. Don't freak out. So eventually I come to the surface and I'm like, at the surface, and they get me, and, we swim, and I finished that accomplishment, and it was such a, like, I don't even have the words to express like that sense of accomplishment. The two things I want to point, metaphorical things that I received from that experience. When we are in situations, when we find ourselves crippled by fear, it's helpful to ask, okay, what is it really that I'm afraid of? What is the real issue here? And then start to attack and address it. Like, what do I need to hear, see, know, do, be, feel to be able to get through this, right? And then think about, like, how can I best honor myself in this situation? Like, granted, there's things in life where you better be like, I'm going to bow out. I don't feel safe. Champion or no champion, I'm good. But then there's some things you got to push yourself forward. And so that experience right there, I feel in many ways has led to this experience. Like, how can I fully show up for myself? Do I want to be the person who goes back to the starting point without finishing the race because the sun went down on me? Or do I want to finish the race, and carry that badge of honor and pride for pushing myself in a difficult situation, for exercising my power to talk myself through fear and to become a victor. So I want to encourage you again, if there's any situation that you have where you are metaphorically standing on the edge of the cliff, do not let the sun go down and go back to the starting point. Ask the questions you need to ask, get the answers, and believe, and stand in your power and jump. You won't drown.